Think about everything sitting inside your Gmail inbox right now. Your bank statements, your medical reports, the private conversations you had with your best friend at 2 in the morning when everything felt like it was falling apart, the job offer you were negotiating, the arguments with your family, the receipts from things you bought that you never told anyone about. All of it. Every single email you have ever sent or received, years and years of your most personal digital life, is sitting right there in one place, attached to one account. And according to a firestorm that exploded across the internet in late 2025, Google may have quietly decided that all of that belongs to its AI too. Now, before we go any further, I want to be honest with you, because this story is complicated and a lot of people got it wrong when it first broke. There's a version of this story that is pure panic, pure clickbait, designed to make you angry and scared without telling you the full picture. That is not what we are doing here. What we are going to do is walk through exactly what happened, what Google actually did, what they say they did not do, why millions of people do not believe them, what a real lawsuit says about all of this, and most importantly, what you can actually do right now to take back control of your inbox. Because whether the absolute worst version of this story is true or not, the settings we are going to talk about are real, they are enabled by default on your account, and disabling them is something every single Gmail user deserves to know how to do. So let us start at the beginning. In November 2025, a man named Davy Jones, an engineering YouTuber with a decent following, posted something on X that stopped people mid-scroll. He wrote, and I am reading this directly, "Important message for everyone using Gmail." The post went viral almost instantly. Within days, it had been viewed over 6.7 million times. People were furious. People were panicking. People were forwarding it to their parents, their colleagues, their group chats. And honestly, given what the screenshots appeared to show, the reaction was completely understandable. Because here is what those screenshots revealed. Deep inside Gmail's settings, not on the first page, not somewhere obvious, but buried several layers down where almost no normal person would ever think to look, there were two separate toggles controlling something called Smart Features. One toggle was for Gmail, Chat, and Meet. The other was for Google Workspace. Both of them were turned on by default. The language sitting right underneath those toggles said something that a lot of people found deeply alarming. It said, and again, I am reading this directly from Google's own interface, when you turn this setting on, you agree to let Gmail, Chat, and Meet use your content and activity in these products to provide smart features and personalize your experience. Your content, your activity, to personalize your experience. In 2025, when AI is everywhere and every tech company is desperately feeding data into its models, that language does not read as innocent to most people. It reads as a confession. Now here is where the story gets murky, and where I need to give you the full picture rather than just the scary version. Google pushed back hard. A spokesperson named Jenny Thompson went on record and said, directly, "We do not use your Gmail content to train our Gemini AI model." Google also said that these smart feature settings were not new. They had existed for years. The company maintained that they had not changed anyone's settings, had not flipped any switches without permission, and that the entire controversy was based on a misunderstanding of what the settings actually do. Even Malwarebytes, the well-respected cybersecurity company that initially published an article amplifying the alarm, went back and issued a correction. They wrote that after taking a closer look at Google's documentation, it did not appear that Gmail content was being used to train Google's generative AI models, that the scanning being done was for Gmail's built-in features, not for feeding Gemini's knowledge base. So case closed, right? Google said it is fine. The security experts corrected themselves. Everyone can calm down and go home. Not quite. Because even if we take Google's statement at complete face value, and there are many people who are choosing not to, the story does not become simple. It just becomes more complicated in different ways. Let us talk about what Gmail's smart features actually do, because understanding that is essential to understanding why so many people are still uncomfortable, even after Google's denial. When those smart features toggles are turned on, Gmail is actively reading your emails, not storing them in some passive archive, not just indexing them for search, actually reading them, analyzing them, processing their content in real time. This is how Smart Compose works, the feature that finishes your sentences as you type a reply. This is how Gmail knows to automatically add a flight confirmation to your Google Calendar without you doing anything. This is how it sorts your inbox into primary, social, and promotions tabs. This is how it generates one-click smart reply suggestions at the bottom of messages. All of these features require Gmail to understand what your emails say. And here is the thing. This has been happening for years. If you have been using Gmail for any significant amount of time, your emails have been read and analyzed by Google's systems. That is not new. What is new is the context in which we are now having this conversation. Because we are living in 2025 and AI has changed everything about how we think about data, the same company that is analyzing your emails to suggest a smart reply is also the company that built Gemini, one of the most powerful large language models on the planet. The same infrastructure that reads your inbox to filter spam is operated by an organization that is in a full-scale arms race with OpenAI, Anthropic, and Meta to build the most capable AI systems in human history. When Google says, we use your email content for smart features, but not to train our AI, a lot of people hear the technical distinction and immediately ask, what exactly is the difference? Because from a user's perspective, their private data is being processed by an AI-powered system either way. The line between using AI to power features and training AI on your data has become very, very thin, and in some cases, people would argue it has disappeared entirely. This is exactly what a product engineer named Kuldeep Singh Jadeja wrote about in a piece that got a lot of attention around this time. He argued that there are actually 3 distinct AI systems operating inside Gmail simultaneously. The first is the traditional machine learning system that has been running for years: the spam filters, the categorization, the basic autocomplete. Most people accepted this trade-off a long time ago because it made email usable. The second is a newer layer of Gemini-powered features that rolled out in 2023. Things like generating full email summaries, offering advanced composition help, and creating contextual suggestions that stretch across your entire Google ecosystem, connecting what you say in Gmail to what you search on Google to what you watch on YouTube. And the third is Gemini Deep Research, announced in November 2025, which can go even deeper, diving into your complete Google history across emails, Drive documents, calendar events, and more. Google says this third system requires explicit opt-in. But the second system, the Gemini-powered layer built into everyday Gmail features, is where the real debate lives: email usability and your privacy. Because that is the choice Google has built into those 2 settings. Turn them off and you protect your data. But turn them off and you also lose spell check, you lose grammar correction, you lose autocorrect, you lose email categorization. In some cases, users reported that even basic features they had relied on for years suddenly stopped working after they disabled smart features. One frustrated commenter wrote online, "How come email categories have been working for over 5 years without Gemini, and now when you disable Gemini, email categories are gone? How do you explain that?" That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a real user experiencing a real consequence of Google having tied privacy and functionality together in a knot that is very difficult to untangle. And then there is the lawsuit. On November 25th, 2025, right in the middle of all of this controversy, an Illinois resident named Thomas Thaley filed a class action lawsuit. The lawsuit made a specific, dated claim that on October 10th, 2025, Google secretly turned on Gemini for all of its users' Gmail, chat, and Meet accounts, enabling AI to track private communications without the user's knowledge or consent. The lawsuit alleged that as of the time of filing, Google was continuing to track these private communications with Gemini by default, and that users were required to affirmatively hunt down a buried privacy setting and shut it off themselves, despite never having agreed to AI tracking in the first place. This is not some fringe filing. This is a formal legal complaint under California law, and it represents potentially one of the largest privacy violations in the history of consumer technology if the allegations hold up. Google has denied the claims in the lawsuit and maintained their position. But denial is not the same as resolution. The legal process will take time, and in the meantime, over 1.8 billion Gmail users are left in a genuinely uncomfortable position, not entirely sure what is true, not entirely sure who to believe, and not entirely sure what their emails are being used for. Now, let us also talk about something that does not get enough attention in most coverage of this story: the regional dimension of this issue, because Google does not treat all of its users the same way, and this is not a secret. It is built into how they respond to different legal environments around the world. In countries covered by the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, Google has to follow strict rules about obtaining meaningful consent before processing personal data for AI-related purposes. The GDPR is one of the most powerful privacy laws ever written, and it forces companies operating in Europe to make privacy protections the default rather than something users have to opt out of. The same applies to the UK, Switzerland, and Japan, which have their own comparable frameworks. In those regions, Google cannot just flip a switch and start using your data. They need to ask first, clearly, and you need to say yes. But in the United States, India, most of South and Southeast Asia, Latin America, and the African continent, in other words, in the places where the vast majority of Gmail's 1.8 billion users actually live, there's no equivalent legal protection. Google is operating in a largely unregulated environment, and that means the defaults it chooses are the ones that serve its business interests, not your privacy interests. The fact that these smart feature settings come turned on by default in Pakistan, in India, and the United States, while they require explicit opt-in in Germany and France, tells you everything you need to know about why those settings are the way they are. It is not an accident. It is a policy decision that takes advantage of the absence of strong legal protections. This is also the context in which you need to understand why, regardless of whether Google is technically training Gemini on your emails or just using your emails to power AI features. The distinction may not matter as much as Google wants it to. Your private communications are being processed by AI systems at a company that has made AI the centerpiece of its entire future. Your data has value. Your inbox is not just a place where you receive messages. From Google's perspective, it is one of the richest behavioral datasets on the planet, a real-time window into what billions of people actually do, buy, worry about, celebrate, and confide in each other about. The idea that all of that data exists inside Google's infrastructure and that Google is simply choosing not to use it to improve its AI models, out of the goodness of their hearts, as a voluntary act of restraint, requires a very particular kind of faith in a very large corporation. A lot of people no longer have that faith, and that is not irrational. So here is what you should do. Right now, today, whether you're watching this on a phone or a computer, you can take 2 specific actions that will limit how Google's AI systems interact with your email content. These are the 2 settings that started this entire conversation, and they are real, they are accessible, and disabling them will make a difference. If you are on a desktop or laptop, open Gmail and look for the gear icon in the top right corner of your screen. Click it and then click See All Settings. This will open your full settings panel. Once you're in there, you need to scroll down and keep scrolling because this is not on the first page, which itself tells you something about how much Google wants you to find it. You're looking for the section on smart features. When you find it, you will see a toggle for Turn on Smart Features in Gmail, Chat, and Meet. Uncheck it, but you're not done yet. Right below that or nearby, you will see an option to Manage Workspace Smart Feature Settings. Click that. It will open a secondary panel with 2 more toggles, one for smart features in Google Workspace and one for smart features in other Google products. Turn both of those off as well. Then save your changes and do it again in that second panel too, because each section has its own save button. Do not miss one. If you are on a mobile device, the process is slightly different. Open the Gmail app and go to your settings, usually found in the menu at the bottom or the side, depending on your device. Look for Data Privacy or a similarly named section. From there, you will find the Smart Features toggles and the Google Workspace Smart Features controls. Toggle them all off. After you have made these changes, it is worth signing out and back into your account, or at least refreshing the app, to make sure the settings have actually taken effect. Now, I want to be straight with you about what this does and does not accomplish. Disabling these settings will turn off Gmail's AI-assisted features. You will lose Smart Compose. You will lose Smart Reply. Your emails may no longer be automatically sorted into categories. Depending on how your account is configured, you may also lose spell check and grammar correction, which has frustrated a lot of users who made this change and then felt like they suddenly had a much dumber, much more chaotic inbox. These are real trade-offs, and they are worth knowing about before you make the change. Only you can decide whether the privacy benefit is worth the functional cost. What disabling these settings will not do is make your Gmail fully private. Google still has access to your emails for basic service operations, scanning for spam, delivering messages, storing your data on their servers. Gmail has never been end-to-end encrypted, which means Google has always had the technical ability to read what is in your inbox. If you want truly private email, the only way to achieve that is to move to a provider that offers end-to-end encryption by default. Services like ProtonMail or Tutanota exist precisely for this reason. But for the billions of people who are going to keep using Gmail regardless, disabling smart features is a meaningful step in the right direction. It closes a door. It limits what AI systems can do with your content. It reduces your exposure. And it sends a small but real signal to Google that you are paying attention.